Let's turn to the economy. Are there any plans in place to relieve the tax burden on Maine residents?
That's probably one of the biggest problems we face in our government today, and that is we have a situation where we have an economy that's sagging significantly, and we have such a demand on safety net issues to the elderly and to disadvantaged and to those who have disabilities that it is very difficult in order with a deficit to discuss tax relief at this time. I know people think there's a big waste of government spending that is going on, but when you take the cost of education, which is in the state of Maine, the overall cost of education is 48%, and you take 32%, which comes from programs such as Medicaid, Maine Care, programs to assist senior citizens and disadvantaged individuals, there is only 20% of the budget that's really in play. 8.3% of that budget goes to such things as the corrections, the Attorney General's office, and issues involving justice. So there's very little money left when you come right down to it. We have to make critical decisions. Do we continue to pay that kind of percentage of our tax dollars in program cost in those areas, or will people want less? And unfortunately, one of the issues that I think that's probably been the most discouraging since I've got back into public service after having been out of the legislature for 14 years is the fact that it seems every group and everyone seems to feel entitled to certain aspects of what government should do. Government can't do everything for everyone. We can only try the best we can as legislators and as policymakers to ensure that we keep the safety net in place, that we provide a quality of education, we provide a good criminal justice system, and we try to take care of the essentials and the necessary essentials. It's been very difficult when we've had the federal government cut back programs 7.6% over the past year and a half. Very difficult to make up that difference, and a lot of people, unfortunately, are not going to be served. And so my first objective is to make sure that our elderly, those that are disadvantaged and need services, individuals who are involved with special ed programs, and the essential services be covered before we talk about tax relief. When it comes to efficiency in government, we really need to demand that government be run more like a business, but with a heart. And that's what I think that this legislature and the coming legislatures will do to ensure that we have that delicate balance of making sure that our services for those who need the services are taken care of, but also understanding the real task of not overburdening individuals financially because of the tax burden that we have. But unfortunately, when you cut federal money out of the budget, it's very difficult to sustain programs and still look to the possibility of some type of reform of our tax structure.
Most Americans are concerned with the direction of this nation's economy. Do you think that we are in a recession?
I believe we're at the beginning of a downturn. I hate to jump on the bandwagon and say that it's a recession, because sometimes the perception becomes the reality when we talk about using the word recession. We have an unstable economy that could turn into have recessionary ties. I don't want to call it a recession, but I can tell you that we have a national fiscal problem on our hands that is transcending down to the local state levels and to the local areas. And so I think during these times, I think it's really essential that the federal government take the lead through some type of economic stimulus. And the states have to take the lead too and provide some bond issues to take care of our infrastructure and put people to work. So I'm optimistic that with the injection of federal money through this bailout plan, I call it, and the prudence of state spending, that we'll be able to move ourselves beyond the talk of a recession. But we are really on the tip of a recession.
Highlights from the Brookings Institute Action Plan call for cutting taxes, promoting efficiency in government, assisting communities to safeguard and plan for the future, and the creation of investment funds aimed to improve Maine's quality of life. What is the legislator going to do to actively carry out those improvements?
Well, I tell you the truth, I am one of the people that early on embraced the whole concept of the Brookings Institution study and report. I believe it's an excellent blueprint and should be the benchmarks which Maine should follow in the future. There are two issues that the Brookings Institute report did not touch upon, though, that I think need to be addressed. One of them is an issue that comes before my committee, on the Committee of Energy and Utilities, and that is the issue of energy. The second missing component of the Brookings Institution report is the issue of transportation. But I understand, and I've talked to Alan Karen about those two particular points, and we're hoping that we will have a Brookings Institution Part 2 that will cover those two issues. The blueprint that they've established is an aggressive, ambitious blueprint and will take some time to implement. I think the tax issue is going to be the most difficult to implement. The idea of efficiencies of government are excellent. Some of the ideas are now being taken place and being discussed, such as consolidation of the Corrections Department, consolidation of educational units, also plans which the governor is attempting to highlight, which would consolidate different departments of state government in order to economize and to make government, I think, a little leaner and meaner, as they say. So I'm enthused with the results of the Brookings Institution report. The legislature last session took an initial step and established a joint standing committee on prosperity. And this committee is basically going to, their objectives are to implement some of the recommendations of the Brookings Institute, but also to come up with some type of situation where there would be a BRAC commission, just as we had with the closing of Brunswick Naval Air Station, but the maintaining of the other Portsmouth Naval, we call it Portsmouth, but the Kittery Shipyard, it's a better way to describe it. And what the objective is to find money and essentially cut down the cost of certain programs, maybe eliminate some programs, or reduce overall on an equal basis some programs, and have an up and down vote on those issues. It's very difficult during the election process to articulate what happens during the budget process, because we have so many steps and so many layers. I believe that the Brookings Institute in their approach might in the end be the better approach in order to, I think, show efficiencies in government.
Wrapping up our time together, how important is this 2008 election to Maine people?
Well, I think you have to look at two things. And again, one issue I hope that everyone will look at, and that is the accountability of elected officials. Is my hope that that we will have on both political parties and with the Green Party candidates that will address the issues. Individuals who are voters will look at the candidates, challenge and tax the candidates on different issues. But more importantly, this election is really one of trying to balance the issue of experienced individuals and change. I think that's the delicate balance that we have to face. At the federal level, this is a very monumental election when it comes to certain issues, such as the war in Iraq. I believe there'll be a black and white choice in that particular issue between the issue of Iraq. It appears that John McCain is going to be the nominee, who is a very strong supporter of Iraq, and both Senator Clinton and Senator Obama, and that's still a toss-up at this point, are for a quick withdrawal or taming down of the force numbers in Iraq, and to redistribute our issues in other ways and reprioritize. So at the federal level, it's I think it's very, very important, but it's also important at the state level. With term limits really causing a real problem, I believe, with the idea of institutional memory. It's important to have individuals who have experience in government and policy making, but also who are forthwith and forward thinking in their views of a better Maine. So I think that not only do we have the issues facing us at the federal level with shaping our federal government, but we also have a good election ahead and a benchmark to follow on the state level.